Hi class, it's Mrs. Kane. I'm here with your next e-learning video. We're going to start talking today about solving radical equations. This is going to be the last new topic actually for Unit 6. The next couple days I'm going to review what I talked about earlier in the week, and we'll get ready for your next formative assessment, which will be done using some kind of online format. All right, so I want to quickly review what I talked about in the last video from Friday, and we learned how to solve exponential equations. So you might need a calculator out if you're not comfortable with some of this arithmetic, but if you're asked to solve for x in this first problem, we're going to start by adding 8 to both sides, and we get 2x to the fourth equals 32, and then we're going to divide both sides by 2. And so we get x to the fourth equals 16. And this is where you might need a calculator. So in order to get rid of this exponent of 4, what we're going to do is we're going to take the fourth root of both sides. Okay, so instead of a square root, we're going to take the fourth root of both sides. Okay, and the fourth root of 16 equals 2. Okay, so we say x equals 2. But because x is being raised to the fourth power, okay, x could also be negative 2, because if you multiply negative 2 by itself 4 times, we're going to get positive 16. So the shortcut would be to write x equals plus or minus 2. So either one is fine. Okay, so it's only when you're taking an even root that you have to consider that plus or minus sign. Okay, another type of problem I talked about in the video Friday is something like x minus 3 to the third power equals 27. So notice this entire base, x minus 3, is being raised to the third power to get 27. Okay, so we're going to take the cubed root of both sides. Okay, and when we take the cubed root of x minus 3 to the third, we just kind of eliminate these exponents. The exponent and the root undo each other. So we end up with x minus 3 equals, and the cubed root of 27 is 3. Okay, and so all we have to do here is add 3 to both sides, and we get x equals 6. Okay, notice I did not use a plus or minus sign that time because 3 is an odd root. Okay, so 3 cubed is 27, but negative 3 cubed does not equal 27. It would equal negative 27. So whenever you're solving by an even root, you get 2 answers. If you're solving by an odd root, you just get 1. All right, so today we're going to start talking about solving radical equations. Okay, so there's a couple types of problems that we're going to talk about. The first set of problems, you're going to notice that you have a radical on both sides of your equation, or you can write it so that you have a radical on each side. So instead of taking the root, we're actually going to raise each side to an exponent. We're going to try to undo the square root or the cube root of the fourth root. Okay, so in this first example, we want to eliminate the square root sign. Think of these square roots as having little 2's here. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to square both sides. And when you square a square root, this exponent undoes this radical. And so you just lift the gate. You take away the square root sign, and you just get 4x minus 2 equals 2x plus 8. And then we can subtract 2x from both sides. And so we get 2x minus 2 equals 8. And then we can add 2 to both sides. 2x equals 10. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and divide by 2. And so x equals 5. Okay, so if you have a square root equal to a square root, just square both sides, and then it becomes a linear equation. Okay, so similarly on part B, we have a fourth root equal to a fourth root. So in order that we can't combine any of the expressions until we get rid of that fourth root. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to raise both sides to the fourth power. Okay, and when I raise that to the fourth power, this exponent cancels out this root. This exponent cancels out this root. And so you lift the gate and we just get 3x plus 2 equals 5x. Okay, and then we subtract 3x from both sides, and we get 2 equals 2x, and then we can divide both sides by 2, and x equals 1. Okay, Now, in the next set of examples, which you're going to notice we have two roots, but they're both on the same side. So we're going to start, we have one extra step here at the beginning. So we're actually going to take this square root of 2x, we're going to add it to both sides. So that way we only have one root on each side. Okay, so we're going to write the square root of 4x minus 28 equals the square root of 2x. You're really just going to take that square root of 2x, you're going to bump it to the other side. Okay, and now we're going to square both sides. Okay, when you square a square root, you lift the gate. And so we're left with 4x minus 28 equals 2x. Okay, now in this case, you have a couple options. You can move the x's to the left or you can move them to the right. So I'm actually going to subtract 2x from both sides. And then I'm going to add 28 to both sides. Okay, so I could have done that in two steps, but if I do it in one step, I get 2x equals 28. So these cancel. And notice now I have my variables on the left, and I have my numbers on the right, and so I get x equals 14. Okay, so you can't just lift the gate. You have to move one of the radicals to the other side, and then you can raise it to the power and lift the gate. So in this next one, we're going to take this expression and we're going to add it to both sides, so it's going to end up over on the right side. So we're going to have the cubed root of x minus 12 equals the cubed root of 3x minus 20. When I move it to the other side, it becomes positive. Okay, so now I can raise both sides to the third power. And when I do that, this 3 cancels out the 3 here, so these undo each other. And you lift the gate, you get x minus 12 equals 3x minus 20. So in this case, I'm going to subtract x from both sides. I get negative 12 equals 2x minus 20. And then I'm going to add 20 to both sides. Okay, you can use a calculator if you need to at this point. 8 equals 2x. And then if we divide both sides by 2, we get x equals 4. All right, so lots of work. The key is to get each of those radicals, one on each side, so then you can kind of just raise it to the third power and lift the gate. Okay? All right, and then the last set of examples, solving an equation with just one radical. So if you only have one radical, you're going to isolate the radical, and then you're going to raise both sides to the appropriate power. All right, so let's take a look at the next set. So this time we only have one cubed root of x, and so what we're going to do, we're going to isolate that cubed root of x. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. I get the cubed root of x equals 4. Okay, and now I'm going to cube both sides. When I cube the left, I eliminate that cubed root sign. And when I cube the right, you can use a calculator. 4 to the third is 64, and so x equals 64. Okay. So the next problem is a square root. I'm going to isolate the square root first by adding 4 to both sides. I get the square root of 2x plus 8 equals 10. And now I'm going to square both sides. Okay, so a square root, to undo a square root, you square it. Okay, so on the left, we get 2x plus 8. 10 squared is 100. And then we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. So 2x equals 92. And then we can divide both sides by 2, and x equals 46. Okay. All right, let's try a couple more, and then I'll let you try a couple on your own. So the next one, we're going to start by subtracting 1 from both sides. We get the 4th root of x minus 2 equals 2. And then we raise both sides to the 4th power. Again, you can use a calculator, but that 4 is going to cancel out the 4th root. And so I lift the gate. I get x minus 2 equals 2 to the 4th is 16. Add 2, x equals 18. All right, and then one more together. Let's subtract 10 from both sides. we get negative 2 times the cubed root of x equals negative 10. Okay, now I got to undo multiplication, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. I get the cubed root of x equals 5. And now I'm going to lift the gate by cubing both sides. Okay, and 5 to the third is 125. And you can, again, use a calculator to try and find that. All right, so if you understand this stuff, I would like you to pause the video and then try the next 2 problems and then check your answers. Otherwise, if you need a little more support, I'm going to do the next 2 problems real quickly, assuming that most of you are going to kind of do them and check. All right, so this one, I'm going to move this 2x to the other side. So I have the square root of 4x minus 28 equals the square root of 2x. And then I'm going to square both sides. And that's going to allow me to lift the gate. So 4x minus 28 equals 2x. And now I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. I get 2x minus 28 equals 0, 2x equals 28, and x equals 14. Okay, and then this one I got to start by undoing multiplication, so divide both sides by 3. The cubed root of x minus 2 equals 2. And then go ahead and cube both sides. And that allows you to lift the gate. X minus 2 equals 2 to the third is 8. Add 2 to both sides, and x equals 10. All right, so once you're done with the video, I'd like you to try the short daily assignment that is posted in Schoology. Check your answers and submit that for points. Thanks a lot. I will be in touch